Dipan, afternoon. What do you think is happening there? Is the market getting nervous every time it gets to this level, or is it just banking for a little bit?
I think, Mitali, it's still more or less in the trading range, and the earlier levels, support resistance, have not yet been broken. At the same time, there are hardly any domestic triggers. I think apart from the Reliance acquisition or proposed acquisition, there was not any trigger. Yesterday that played its role in taking the market up, but now that it's got discounted, there is nothing really to look forward to except for global movements. And with the global markets being at the levels they are, that it is down today, I think it's getting reflected in our markets as well. So I think that it's in a trading band and may remain so for the rest of the year as well. And you would see, positions being unwound and fresh positions being taken in, at the resistance or the support levels, depending on where the market is. So I think it's pretty much a normal trading day today, nothing exciting or special.
Deepan, you've been tracking the futures and options space for a while. Of course, you have said that sometimes it really fails to act as a bit of a leading indicator. Is there any trade to play to expiry where you could possibly write an at-the-money put option, just pocket that little bit of premium that's less over the past 3 days, or is that a very risky trade? For example, writing a 5100 put.
Well, I think that better to put the options trade in the next series only. At this point of time, although the implied volatilities are low and one is tempted to buy options, put or call, and then hope for a move, it doesn't seem to be likely, over the next at least 48 hours or so. So I think all option strategies are best in the December series. And at this point of time, I think existing positions in options, especially those which earn the time value of the option, that is the theta, could be continued or carried forward.
You look at some of these IPOs, Dipan, did you get a chance to study the DEN issue?
No, not really. We completely avoided that issue, and I still maintain that that's not a exciting space to be in. And in any case, the issue was priced at a very high valuation compared to the peer group as well as compared to the potential of the business. So we just kind of, avoided the issue completely.
Stay on.
How would you play Reliance Industries just before it goes ex-bonus in a couple of days? Do you think that will have any bit of a technical impact on the stock?
There could be a slight bump up, which typically takes place when a stock goes from come bonus to ex-bonus, and that is likely, but then that's barely for a day or two. And on the whole, I think that just playing for that particular event doesn't make sense, because there could be extraneous factors which could drive the stock down. So I think that it's just going to be a bit of a non-event. And just as the announcement was a bit of a non-event, it hardly had any impact on the stock price. The fact that it's going ex-bonus also should not have any material impact. But on the whole, I think that a lot of variables are getting into play for Reliance Industries. There's of course the case going on in the Supreme Court, and then there is the proposed acquisition, as well as the SEBI show cause notice. So I think that you're getting into a kind of a tricky zone for Reliance, and the stock could move any which way depending upon the news flow or the outcome of these three events.
Within mid-cap IT, Dipan, would you buy either of the NIT twins, NIT or NIT Tech?
I think NIT can be avoided. The company has consistently underperformed its peer group, and by and large its performance has been quite disappointing. And typically one division does well, other two do badly, and then that kind of a churning keeps on taking place, whereby it's never able to fire on all cylinders. Even the acquisition which they did in the US was a bit of a damn square, and in fact has been a problem area for the company. NIT Tech, I think, has been showing promise over the past 3-4 quarters. They have consistently beaten street expectations, and they are getting into a space or into a zone where one could expect them to be the results to be a bit more predictable, as well as have better earnings visibility. So that, I think, is positive for the stock, and maybe if that trend continues for a quarter or two, then investors may be compelled to pay a slightly higher PE multiple. Remember, NIT Tech has always been quoted at a discount to mid-cap IT, and maybe that situation could change. But I think that a little bit more time needs to be given before one can say that there is a change in the operations, and now we're going to see more predictable results.
Dipan, what about the shipping space? That had a fantastic run last week and then it sort of quietened down. Anything there that you like?
I think those stocks are moving in tandem with the Baltic Freight Index, and with that freight index also correcting, we are seeing a correction in the shipping stocks as well. But by and large, I think it's an interesting space, bit of a contrarian play as well. And if one has the view that global trade will eventually pick up, then these stocks are available at very attractive valuation, dividend yield as well as net asset value wise. Whichever parameter you value these companies, they are quite attractively priced. But just that one has to have understanding that, at least the assumption that growth in trade and freight rates correspondingly will move up over the next 3 to 6 months, which I think is a fair assumption also, given that across the globe we are seeing that GDP growth rates are being pushed upwards, estimates are moving higher. So it's a fair assumption, and I think that it's a good space for investors. But I think it's more of the trading kind of proposition as well, because they kind of move in tandem with global factors, and if things were to change over there, then one needs to exit out of these stocks as well. So I think the trader type of investors would prefer these stocks rather than the buy only and long-term investors.
Dipan, has the time come yet to start buying telecom?
No, not yet. I think that maybe 2-3 more quarters before we get clarity on where the numbers stand post this particular bloodbath which is taking place within the industry. And no doubt that the long-term prospects of the industry, especially the leaders within the industry, is excellent. But in case of a war the way it is happening, there are going to be damages on both sides, and I think the clear assessment of what the losses could be on account of this price war are still not known. But it's a sector one needs to keep an eye on, and maybe as and when you get some kind of a status quo, or at least the fact that the competitive intensity is declining a little bit, that could be a good entry point. But I think that's a bit difficult to correctly time as well. For the time being, I think just wait and watch what is happening within the industry, and at appropriate points of time, even if the stock has run up, it may make sense to buy at a higher level, but at least have more certainty and visibility about the earnings and the growth prospects.
Dipan, for the December series, is it safer to initiate an option trade playing for any big delta move, or would you be initiating a trade to just play for a range?
That's a very difficult question to answer. But if I were to hazard a guess, I think given that the implied volatilities are below 25%, it may make sense to go for a delta play, which means that you buy more options than you sell options. But I don't have very high conviction in that strategy, because as such also December, like November, will be a low news flow month, and there are hardly any events. Also December, the global markets do tend to get sluggish, and these days all that we traders, investors are following are global markets, and that could result in the implied volatilities and the overall volatility of the market dropping even further. In that case, a delta strategy or delta move strategy may not be profitable.
Dipan, thanks for your perspective as always. Nonetheless,